Hey there, welcome to Stabal Talks. I'm Brock Gill. Today we have Anna Graceman. I'm excited to have you here, Anna.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
You've heard this a lot, but the first time I heard your voice, I kind of fell out of my chair.
Thank you.
Because you were on America's Got Talent.
Right.
How old were you?
I was 11.
You were 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I see little you
Yeah.
sit down at a piano, and this lion's roar came out of your mouth, and I was in shock. And so I know you've heard this before, but it was wonderful. It was a great moment in TV.
Thank you.
It was really wonderful. How was that experience?
It was a great experience. I mean, I learned a lot. I was super young, of course, so I learned a lot about kind of how to hold myself and be confident in myself and realize that kind of just how adults will perceive you differently if you hold yourself in a certain way.
Sure.
But it was a wonderful growing experience, and a lot of opportunities came from the show, and I was able to perform in front of a lot of people, and so I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also on America's Got Talent at one point, years ago. The scariest part is walking onto that stage and wondering, are you going to get an X?
Sure.
And I could, thankfully, that didn't happen for me. I got a standing ovation, which was really, really fun. It was like this moment of, it was kind of exhilarating, but it was scary, and you don't know how that's going to go. I can imagine that there was some fear walking on that big stage that day, because it's a big place.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I have more anxiety about performances now than I did as a kid. And I'd assume the reason why is because I know all the things that could go wrong.
Sure.
Like now I understand that there are a lot of things that could go wrong, whereas when I was younger, I honestly just wanted to do a good job, and that was my only concern.
Yeah.
Which obviously I still want to do a good job, but now I'm like, oh gosh, what if this happens, and you know. But I was definitely nervous to perform in such a large crowd, and then also in front of the judges, and you never know what they're going to say. So, but I was excited.
Good.
Yeah.
That led you to some interesting moments that in some ways people dream about. I mean, not to mention TV and on a national level, but like you had a residency in Las Vegas on some pretty big and really nice stages and nice theaters.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was able to do 2 residencies actually through the show. The first one was a pretty short residency at the Caesars Palace Coliseum in Vegas, and that was with my season, and I did a lot of the performance by myself on stage, just piano vocal, and so it kind of allowed me the understanding of I could carry a show by myself. I could be on a stage and hold the stage on my own, but it was honestly way more fun when there was a house band, and you know, we got to collaborate on stage and stuff. But so it was really wonderful.
You found that more challenging to be by yourself because you're losing the energy of all the other people? Is that what it is?
Up until that point, I hadn't really had the experience of being on stage with the band, so I was super used to it just being me and the piano, and that had been the way it was for a long time. But it was really just super fun to have other musicians on stage to vibe with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I caught sound check today, and I was kind of freaking out. I was like, hey guys, come listen to this. And one of the things that I saw was you kind of warming up in the piano room, and this vibey little room right there. And it seemed to me like you just, when you're at the piano, you just feel right at home.
Yeah.
And the music for you, it seems like you're singing from the heart, you're writing from the heart. There's some honesty in there, real life experience in there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like that well that you're drawing from.
Sure.
Like, where is that? And tell me about some of those life experiences that have turned into beautiful lyrics at this point.
Yeah. You know, I started writing in the 1st grade. I wrote my first song when I was 6 in the 1st grade, and it was called So I Cried.
1st grade?
Yeah.
You were 6, wrote your first song.
Yeah.
Okay, in 1st grade, I finally was starting to figure out how to tie my shoes, but you're writing songs, so okay, good.
I mean, I had been playing piano for a couple of years at that point. I started piano at 4, and so I always loved to sing and play the piano, and then when I was in school, I realized that I loved to write stories too, and that's when I kind of had this realization that I could put those two things that I love together. Songwriting was this thing now that I had discovered, and the first song I wrote was called "So I Cried."
Yeah.
And you know, little kids cry about everything, but the reason why I wrote the song was because I'd heard from a loved one about someone that they cared about that had passed away. And I didn't know this person that had passed away, but as a 6-year-old, I'm sitting there thinking about like my mom and my dad. I'm like, what if I lost them? Like, I don't know what I would do. And so I wrote this song, and that was the first song I wrote.
Wow.
But yeah, I've always been vulnerable in my music. I think it's super important to be vulnerable. And I think because I started off at such a young age, I never was worried about what other people wanted from me in my music. I was just doing what I wanted to do with it because I could, and I was excited about it. And as I've grown as a writer and as a person, I've come to an understanding that there are certain ways of songwriting that people prefer, but if I can always keep honesty and being vulnerable in the music, it'll connect with more people. So I always try to do that.
I want to ask you something that I find very curious. You were on a national stage at age 11. Classmates, your friends.
Yeah.
Like, how did they perceive that? And then how did you perceive just your social interaction and school and all of that along that journey? Because that's not a normal thing for kids to, right?
Right. Yeah. I actually, when I went on the show, I started homeschool. Before that, I had done a performance on the Ellen Show, and I remember when students found out that I was on the show or they'd seen the show, they're like, "Oh, so you met Taylor Swift, or you met Ellen DeGeneres, and who did you meet? Whose autograph can you get me on the sticky note that I'm handing you right now?" Like, no. That's so yeah, it was a different experience being around kids in that moment, because I was just excited to do the music stuff.
Sure,
Honestly,
sure.
I didn't grow up with the TV, so I didn't watch the Ellen Show. Of course, I knew who she was, but I didn't realize how exciting it really was. And so I was just excited that I got to go perform my song. And so it was kind of this thing that I realized where I saw what other people were really valuing in the experience, and other kids kind of, their perception of me definitely changed. Yeah. So it's been another learning experience, understanding what people are really expecting from you, if they're really interested in you as a person, or maybe I should just move along. But yeah, no, all of it's been a growing experience though, so I'm grateful for that.
So you said no TV growing up.
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting is that I've talked to several people recently who are really great artists, and a common thing is they didn't watch TV growing up.
Yeah.
Do you find that TV, or that absence of TV, was a benefit? Or was it more of a hindrance in the fact that you weren't able to kind of peek in and see what else is going on in the world? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of inspiration in day-to-day life, experiencing ups and downs. There's plenty of inspiration there. I don't think I need to watch the news necessarily, especially as a kid. I don't think I would want to watch the news. But yeah, no, I feel like I grew up in Juneau, Alaska, okay? Dark winters and rainy summers. Yeah. And so you stay inside.
Of course.
And when there's no TV, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Kind of focus on the things that are more organic and that you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So that, for me, was songwriting and piano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in this really beautiful place. We're outside. We hear the birds. We're near the studio. We're hearing drums and all sorts of things happening around us. But there's something great about being outside. This reminds me of Alaska, because there's a lot of outdoor activities in Alaska. Now, it looks totally different, obviously.
Yeah, no.
But I've been to Alaska. I absolutely love Alaska.
Yeah.
When you come out here, whether it's Alaska or here in Tennessee, do you get inspired? Like, does this stuff kind of awaken you?
Yeah. No, I would say that the very beginning of this journey started off by me writing a song about Juneau. Yeah. And that was what opened up the doors to the Ellen Show, was that song. Yeah. So I'm constantly inspired by my surroundings, especially nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Alaska.
Yeah.
I told you before, but when I was in Alaska, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I got charged by a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
And you were like, yep, check that
Yeah.
one off your list.
Yeah.
So have you had encounters with wildlife in Alaska?
Thankfully, not anything that close, but we'd see them in our yard all the time.
Bears?
And, yeah.
In your yard?
All the time, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was pretty normal. And they get in your trash, so you
Yeah.
have to like lock your trash can, because
Yeah.
they know how to get in people's cars if they're unlocked. They're very smart, so yeah, it's pretty normal.
Wow. So one thing that I learned in Alaska is it's the moose that you have to worry about.
Well, yeah, that's more up north.
Okay.
Not necessarily in Juneau.
Okay.
But yeah, in Anchorage, the moose are pretty.
Yeah, like lots of people
Scary.
get injured by moose.
Yeah.
Way more than bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. So
Yeah.
we don't have any moose here that I'm aware of. So I think you should
Yeah.
be.
I'm
you
okay.
should be okay.
I think I'm okay
yeah.
here.
I keep looking over my back.
Oh.
but I don't. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we're okay.
Okay.
So there's been some stories that you've told about some tragedy and drama along the way that you've experienced. I want to hear some of those as much as you want to tell.
Sure.
I want to hear a little bit about that, and also like how processing went for you, like processing those those images, those tough times. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to like the stories behind some of the songs I shared today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So about, I guess, almost 2 years ago, in October 2018, I was at a restaurant in Nashville, in East Nashville, and while I was there, there was a shooting in the middle of the road with automatic weapons firing towards the restaurant, and it was definitely scary, and it was the first time I'd thought about like my life in that way, and so it definitely changed my perspective, and I've been allowed a lot of gratitude through that, which I am really grateful for. But I was able to kind of channel that and write a song about it, and that song is called Autumn Day. And then 2 months later, I was in another part of Nashville, and I was carjacked at gunpoint, and like I know, right? And seriously, after that first experience, when people tell you, oh, that's crazy, that's something that'll never happen again, I can't believe that, and then something else happens that's honestly way more personal and directed at me, it was super traumatic, to say the least. But again, I knew I wanted to write about it, because for me, songwriting is an amazing tool. It's like therapy for me, and I know that I'll be able to connect with other people through my experiences through songwriting, and so I knew I wanted to write about it, and yet I couldn't write about it, and I didn't know why, because there was plenty of inspiration, plenty of emotions, and yet I couldn't. And so eventually I came up with the idea for Night Follows. And you know, when bad things happen, right, you tend to want to ask, like, why did that happen? What was the point of that? What am I supposed to learn from that? And a lot of times when you ask those questions, you don't always get an answer. Yeah. And so for me, instead of sitting around asking the question why, like I did for a while, I decided that I needed to write something. I needed to put it into the music, because I couldn't really find any other way to find meaning behind what had happened. And so I'm just super grateful to have music, because it's helped me so much. And I would say processing through it all, music was a huge help, and being able to share my story is really important to me, because again, why did this happen? Maybe I need to share this with someone. Maybe someone else who's going through something scary needs someone to relate to, someone who understands, someone who's trying to work through it in a positive way. I don't know, but I'm just trying to bring something positive out of something negative and not so great.
You mentioned being grateful. That was a thing that you grateful for life and for all the blessings. And when you go through tragedy, and we were talking at lunch today, some of the things that I've gone through as well, and there's questions that come up along the way. So my question for you has that challenged your faith or perception of God? And if so, like, in what ways?
I think it's challenging to wonder why things happen like that. And there are a lot of situations that are honestly a lot more horrendous than mine, because I was able to walk away safe
Yeah.
And there are a lot of situations that you look at and you wonder why, and you don't always get an answer.
Sure.
So I think for me, if anything, I just have grown a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
And again, gratitude, because I don't really have the answers,
Yeah.
but all I can do is just kind of look for the good.
Yeah.
And that's really all you can do with anything like that.
Yeah. Sometimes the answers are just really hard to find, and sometimes you feel like there are no answers. I look at some, tragic moments in my life or in my friend's life and just go, I don't get that at all. I don't know why that happened.
Right.
But, for me, just trying to keep a perspective, I can find where sometimes it takes time, but sometimes I can find where God used a situation or he protected me from something that was much, much worse in the middle of that.
Sure.
And sometimes that's what I'm holding on to, is that, wow, it could have been so much worse.
Right.
You look down the gun barrel a couple of times within a short amount of time.
Yeah.
That's not normal,
No.
But there was so much of like the hand of protection on you in the moment, because look,
Sure.
you're still here.
Right,
and
exactly.
great.
Yeah, I know. I was able to walk away without being physically harmed.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand why, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So in other news, I saw this. Headline news in the newspaper that you learned how to drive a stick shift.
Yeah. I did. It was pretty exciting. I feel like I'm actually looking at this VW bus that I'm really excited about. That probably won't happen, but it's in my dreams, So
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned how to drive stick shift,
Yeah.
because all the cars that are cool, you have to
Yeah.
drive stick shift.
Was it difficult to learn?
Well, I was actually learning as I was filming a music video.
Hold on.
So-
You were learning while you were filming.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like two huge things at once.
Yeah, so I'm sure some of it's documented and it's probably really funny. But no, I think the most difficult part was trying to drive up an incline and get started at
Yeah.
an incline. So
starting,
other than that,
yeah.
I did okay.
Yeah. What kind of car was it?
It was a Mazda Miata.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting color.
Yeah.
Did you find that car and go, hey, that's the one I want?
Well, I was looking at a couple different cars, and I wanted a Miata specifically because I wrote it about a loved one who'd passed away, and he loved Miatas. He was in a Miata club.
Okay.
And so I wanted to really tie in all these things that meant something to me and to this person.
Yeah.
So I looked for a specific car, not realizing that I would end up coming across a car he had previously owned, which is crazy.
The one you wrote the song about.
Well, the guy that I wrote the song about, he previously owned this Miata.
It was his car.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So that was pretty cool.
That's kind of crazy.
I know.
I can't figure that one out.
I know. And I didn't want it to be a modern version of the car.
Yeah.
Because it looks cooler when it's old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly, that's pretty wild. So you were releasing songs, if I remember this right, one per month. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you kind of write them like, oh, I have to have one ready, one each month? Or did you kind of bank them and then just start releasing them once a month?
Right, yeah. So before I released all that music, I had dedicated a couple of years just to writing.
Okay.
So every time I would write a song that I connected with, I would make note of it.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I had all these songs that I wanted to share with people and that I hadn't released music in a while. And so I challenged myself to release a song and a video every month for 2019.
Yeah.
And so I would look at each month and look back at the songs that I, related to, that I really loved. And that's how I would decide which song to release. Whereas actually with Autumn Day, the song that I wrote from personal experience, that song about a loved one with the Miata, I ended up releasing those a year after those events.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And after Songland, did you enjoy Songland? That's a whole new TV experience for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I loved Songland. It was a really wonderful experience, and I didn't really know how it was going to go or what it was going to be like, but it really was about songwriting, and I was surrounded by other songwriters that understood exactly what I do, and we were able to relate and actually collaborate.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it really was focused on the songs, which is refreshing. It was really cool.
From all of that experience and exposure, has that created a kind of a demanding travel schedule, or do you like to limit your travel schedule? How much how much do you travel? How much do you stay home? Like, how do you balance all of that?
Yeah. Well, obviously being in Nashville, there's a ton of music opportunities. So I don't necessarily have to travel if there's not an opportunity coming up. But I tend to travel fairly often. I go out to LA to write. And I've had other trips for writing that have been out of state, and it's really fun. I feel like that's the dream for me, honestly, is being able to do what I love, which is songwriting and music, and being able to travel and have a happy life doing all that. So
yeah,
it's
that's
cool.
great. Well, we're so happy to have you here. This has been really great.
Yeah.
So pleasant to be around you, and we just enjoy your music. So we're thankful. Yeah.
I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me.
Good. Today was a really great day with Anna Graceman. Thanks for watching Stabal Talks. I'm Brock Gill. See you soon.